Prince Harry has told King Charles he is prepared to ditch Meghan Markle.
Cue the laugh.
What are you suggesting?
He definitely didn't want Meghan to be with him, and she's definitely not with him.
Yes, I'm sure you agree, darling.
Meghan wouldn't have liked that.
Meghan would never get that. Meghan would never get that.
The first sign that something was seriously wrong came from the Montecito security team. Around midnight, lights blazed through every wing of the Sussex estate, and staff reported the unmistakable sound of shouting, sharp, panicked, and echoing through the hallways. Meghan Markle, according to one insider, was absolutely losing it. And the trigger? A private memo, allegedly seen on Harry's tablet, outlining early-stage reintegration scenarios between the Duke of Sussex and the royal family, scenarios that pointedly excluded Meghan.
Look, I love you and I'm willing to do whatever I need to do in order to be with you, Meghan.
Aw, and I love you too. I think it's important we do this ourselves, Harry, and not live off your family.
I agree.
The document itself, according to whispers from those close to the situation, was never meant to be seen by her, but once she did, it was game over. Sources claim it referenced logistics for Harry to resume select charitable duties in the UK, starting with a formal re-entry meeting with palace officials, contingent on him traveling solo. No mention of joint appearances, no mention of Meghan, not even a placeholder, just Prince Harry, and a string of bullet points about optics, timing, and reputational repair. Whatever fragile détente the couple had been clinging to, shattered. Meghan allegedly confronted Harry directly, and it wasn't quiet. Staff were told to give the couple absolute privacy, which at this point was code for stay as far away as possible.
We'll just have to find a way to make £50 billion on our own.
One aide, speaking off the record, said, "It was the worst it's ever been." She was screaming about betrayal, legacy, the children, everything. He barely spoke. He just stood there. And here's where it gets even messier, because this wasn't some old draft or idle thought. Insiders say the memo had recent timestamps. Some of the attached talking points were prepared by a London-based public affairs consultant Harry used before Megxit, someone he hadn't spoken to in years, someone Meghan thought had been completely cut off. That's when it clicked for her. Harry was planning something without her. And not just any something that could redefine his public image without her name anywhere near it. The emotional tailspin was immediate. Meghan allegedly called her publicist, her manager, her lawyer, anyone who would pick up. She was convinced this was the beginning of the end.
Jesus, what did they do to you?
Some say she even began asking questions about property ownership and media clauses tied to their Archewell contracts. Not because Harry had confirmed anything, but because her gut told her everything was shifting. And the worst part? No denial from Harry. No soothing words. No, this is all a misunderstanding. Just silence. The kind of silence that says, it's already too late. But that was only the surface, because what Meghan didn't know, at least not yet, was that the memo was tied to a secret meeting across the Atlantic, one that had been leaked to the British press, sparking chaos across two palaces and setting up what insiders now call the balcony betrayal. And Meghan? She was the last to find out. It all unraveled on a sunlit London terrace, a quiet corner of an exclusive private members club, the kind of place where discretion is the unspoken rule. But this time, discretion didn't stand a chance, because somehow, someone tipped off the press.
What happened to your ring?
I gave it to the working people.
We're the working people. I'm sorry, I need a drink.
And by morning, the so-called peace summit between Prince Harry's team and King Charles's top advisors was plastered across every major UK tabloid. Meghan Markle, waking up thousands of miles away, found out the same way the rest of the world did, by reading the Daily Mail. The photo was blurry, but unmistakable. There was Meredith Maines, Meghan's chief of staff, fresh off a transatlantic flight from California. There was Liam Maguire, their London-based comms fixer. And sitting with them in the golden summer light, just steps from Green Park, was Tobias Andrews, the king's most senior aide. They weren't hiding, they weren't rushing, they were sipping wine, laughing, smiling. To the press, it looked like a diplomatic reset. But to Meghan, it felt like a setup, a betrayal, maybe even a trap. Because here's the twist. According to sources inside Clarence House, neither William nor Camilla knew this meeting was happening. William was blindsided, and that's not a word that gets tossed around lightly in royal circles. He reportedly found out just like Meghan did, from the front page. Which raises one very loaded question. Who leaked it? Well, Meghan had her theory, and it wasn't the palace.
You never had a dream when you were a child to be something everyone else said was impossible? Like an astronaut, or prime minister, or masseur?
I wanted to be a princess.
Oh, well, you kind of fucked that up.
Insiders claim she immediately suspected someone on Harry's side. possibly even Harry himself. After all, this wasn't a standard meeting about security logistics or press coordination. This was optics, positioning, repair, and just like the memo she'd found on Harry's device, there were no references to her, no seat at the table, no representation. It was a summit about Harry's future, without Meghan. The theory that someone leaked it intentionally to accelerate a shift in public perception sent Meghan into full lockdown mode. Within 24 hours, her legal team began issuing quiet inquiries about NDAs. Her comms team was told to prepare contingency narratives. One source even claims Meghan floated the idea that she might leak her own version of events just to preempt the narrative. But even if she had, it was too late. The image of Meredith and Liam on that terrace, fraternizing with the king's most trusted advisor, had already done its damage. The UK press had a field day, painting Meghan as the one left behind, left out, and maybe left behind on purpose. Back in Kensington Palace, William's fury reportedly boiled over. Not because Harry was talking to their father, but because no one told him. The future King of England found out about a high-level royal strategy session the same way the public did, and that, according to sources, crossed a line.
We just want to be normal people. All this attention is so hard. Isn't it true, sir, that your questionable wife has her own TV show and hangs out with celebrities and does fashion magazines?
But what pushed Meghan over the edge wasn't the photo, it was the timing. Because as she stewed in California, another bombshell was detonating. Harry had flown to Africa, retracing the exact path his mother walked through landmine fields 30 years earlier. And Meghan? She wasn't invited. There's one place Harry has always considered sacred: Angola, the red dust, the landmine fields. The echo of his mother's legacy still lingering like a ghost. So when it was revealed he had flown there, alone, to walk the exact same path Diana once did, the press called it a tribute, a homecoming, a royal son honoring the cause his mother championed. But behind the scenes, that solo flight was anything but sentimental. It was a message, and Meghan got it loud and clear. Because according to sources in Angola, it wasn't just coincidence that Meghan wasn't by his side. Harry made that decision himself, early on, long before the trip was public, long before peace talks were leaked. He told organizers flat out, Meghan would not be attending. No option, no debate. And the reason? Well, that depends on who you ask. Harry's team insists it was about safety. That the terrain, the press, the optics, none of it was suited for a joint appearance. But insiders say that explanation doesn't hold. Meghan's traveled to more volatile places: Nigeria, Ukraine, even war zones with camera crews in tow. She's never needed protecting from publicity. If anything, she's thrived on it, which is why the second explanation is the one that sent shockwaves through Montecito. He wanted it to be his, said one insider. His mother's legacy, his cause, his identity. The implication was chilling.
We can be the people we talked about being, with no more worries about how we look or the image we project to people. What matters is what we have on the inside.
Meghan's presence would have turned it into a photo op, a brand moment, something Harry, perhaps for the first time, didn't want diluted. The minefield walk was Diana's. Now it was his, and Meghan was out. The imagery made everything worse. Harry in a flak jacket, face solemn, treading through the same danger zone Diana braved with the world watching. No handlers, no wife, just the ghost of a mother and a prince trying to reclaim something real. To the press, it was poignant. To Meghan, it was war. She knew exactly how this would land. The parallels were too perfect. And for someone who allegedly hoped to one day inherit the public's Diana love, watching Harry recreate the myth without her was unbearable. That's when Meghan went rogue. According to two separate entertainment reporters, she called a high-level brand strategist the very next morning. The topic? How to reclaim the narrative. She wanted to be seen, one source said. Even if it had to be subtle, veiled, symbolic. She wanted a moment. And that moment came just days later, on Queen Camilla's birthday. Meghan, ever the strategist, posted what looked like a sweet gesture, a vague Instagram story celebrating a royal woman with a bottle of As Ever Rosé and a caption about sending birthday love from near and far. But the timing wasn't random. The caption wasn't innocent, and the wine, very much for sale. It wasn't a tribute, it was a stunt. And for the palace, it was the final straw. It was supposed to be Queen Camilla's day, her 78th birthday, a serene, stately moment captured in a graceful new portrait released by Buckingham Palace. Taken in the Garden of Raymil, the Queen's private sanctuary, the image had all the makings of a front-page royal tribute. But when the UK tabloids hit the stands that morning, Camilla's face was nowhere to be found. Instead, it was Harry, alone in Angola.
How dare you, sir? My Instagram-loving wife has always wanted her privacy. And you know what else? To hell with Canada, we are leaving. We'll go find some quiet place where we can be normal people. Come on, wife.
walking in Diana's footsteps, who dominated the headlines. And Meghan? She wasn't about to let that go unchallenged. At precisely midnight London time, just as Camilla's birthday officially began, Meghan dropped an Instagram story. It was subtle, but not subtle enough. 3 bottles of her as ever rosé wine, photographed artfully on a marble counter, with a caption that read, "Sending birthday love from near and far to my lady." No name, no royal titles, just enough ambiguity to spark a firestorm, and spark it did. Within minutes, social media lit up with speculation. Was the post about Camilla? Was Meghan trying to mend fences or hijack the moment? The answer, according to insiders, was both. Meghan knew exactly what she was doing. She timed it perfectly, she framed it vaguely, and she used it to push product. Because here's what most people missed. As Ever Rosé, Meghan's boutique wine line, can't normally be shipped to the UK due to import restrictions. But that caption, "from near and far," signaled she was willing to make an exception. Rumor has it, she even paid international shipping herself to ensure the wine could arrive in Windsor if it had to. The message? I'm still here, I still matter, and I'm still watching. Royal aides were reportedly livid. One palace source said the post was cheap, calculated, and deliberately timed to pull attention away from the Queen. Another insider flatly called it an insult disguised as a gift. Even royal correspondents, normally careful with their words, began hinting that the post had crossed a line, and the public reaction wasn't much better. Comment threads filled with fury. "She used Camilla's birthday to sell wine," one user wrote. "This isn't shade, it's a PR ambush," said another. Hashtags began trending that very morning, questioning Meghan's intentions and calling out the birthday hijack. What made it even worse? Harry's image had just dominated the front pages. For the first time in months, he was getting solo praise.
I don't know what to do. How are we gonna pay for school for Archie?
I have to tell you, I never realized so many things cost money. Like this chicken. I bet you had to pay for it.
Emotional, earnest, royal, and then Meghan, whether by coincidence or design, inserted herself into the same narrative and tainted it. Back at Buckingham Palace, the timing wasn't viewed as accidental, not after similar stunts on Prince Louis's birthday, or Princess Kate's recovery announcement, or now, Queen Camilla's 78th. It was becoming a pattern no one inside the royal family found amusing anymore. But Meghan wasn't done, because even as the headlines turned against her, something far worse was erupting back in Montecito. Her marriage was unraveling fast, and the next fight wouldn't happen on Instagram. It would happen face to face. They say the walls in Montecito don't talk, but this time, they didn't have to. Because according to at least one staffer who spoke off the record, you didn't need to hear what was said. You could feel it in the air. What had started as a simmering feud between Meghan and the palace was now boiling over between Meghan and Harry. And this wasn't just about bad optics or another failed PR stunt. This was personal. This was raw. And this time, it was coming from inside the house. It started with silence. Harry had returned from Angola, quieter than usual. No debrief, no laughter, barely a hello. He went straight to his private study, according to staff, and stayed there for hours. Meghan, on the other hand, was pacing, fuming. She knew he'd seen the backlash to her birthday post. She knew it had triggered more tension with the royals. But what she didn't know, at least not fully, was just how far Harry had already drifted. When she finally confronted him that evening, insiders say it exploded fast. She was demanding clarity, said one source. She wanted answers about the palace meetings, about the Africa trip, about the memo she found, and she wanted to know, point blank, was he planning to leave her behind? And Harry? He didn't deny it. According to one source close to the situation, he simply said, "I need time to think about everything." Meghan allegedly responded by slamming a door so hard that the alarm system temporarily triggered. The couple's security team stood outside the room for nearly 30 minutes, unsure if they were supposed to intervene. Inside, the shouting got worse. Meghan allegedly accused Harry of betraying their shared mission, of embarrassing her, of humiliating the brand they built together. She reminded him of everything they had survived: Frogmore, the tabloids, the Oprah interview. She reminded him of what they left behind, what they sacrificed. But Harry, he just sat down. He didn't yell, the source said. He just told her quietly that he missed his family.
Cereal. And yes, you have to pay for everything, Harry. Life is hard. Most people struggle.
I have red hair. I know struggle.
And that maybe it was time to fix it. That landed like a punch to the gut. Not because of what he said, but because of what it meant. Harry wasn't just tired of the headlines. He wasn't just tired of the fights. He was tired of her. The confrontation, according to people close to the Sussex circle, was the moment Meghan realized she might actually lose him. Not in a scandal, not in some royal exile, but quietly, one emotional retreat at a time. The next morning, Meghan didn't show up for a scheduled as-ever branding call. Her team rescheduled, citing personal obligations. And Harry? He was already texting his old friend from Eton, the one Meghan had allegedly banned years ago. The message was simple: let's talk. But that wasn't the only reconnection brewing, because halfway across the world, Prince William was drawing his own line in the sand. And this time, even Charles couldn't talk him down. At Kensington Palace, the mood had shifted from frustration to full-on fury. Prince William, usually the one to bite his tongue, play the diplomat, hold the institution above emotion, was done. According to royal insiders, when news of the leaked peace talks broke, he didn't just feel betrayed, he felt cut out. And the worst part, he wasn't wrong. William reportedly found out about the secret summit between Harry's team and the king's senior aides, the same way the rest of the world did, through a headline. No heads up, no courtesy call, no involvement. Which, for the future King of England, wasn't just disrespectful, it was dangerous. Sources say William immediately demanded answers, not just from his father, but from senior palace courtiers. Who knew what? Who approved it? Why was he deliberately excluded from a meeting that had direct implications for the entire royal family? And the answer, allegedly, was chilling in its simplicity. King Charles didn't want confrontation. He wanted progress. Quiet, private, controlled progress. And he knew William would never go along with it, because William's position hadn't changed. He still considered Meghan a threat to the monarchy's stability. He still believed Harry couldn't be trusted with classified briefings. And he still felt, and had said it behind closed doors, that bringing them back into the fold, even partially, would be like inviting chaos through the front gates. Camilla agreed. According to whispers inside Clarence House, the Queen Consort was deeply unsettled by Harry's Angola stunt, especially its timing on her birthday. She saw it for what it was, an intentional disruption. And Meghan's vaguely worded wine post? That was the last straw. One senior aide put it bluntly. They're still playing games, and they haven't changed, not one bit. The palace was suddenly split down the middle. On one side, King Charles, still hoping, still reaching, still soft toward his youngest son. On the other, William and Camilla, furious that olive branches were being offered to people they viewed as repeat offenders.
I'm sorry.
It's not your fault. I kind of took you out of your natural habitat. I'm surprised you're still breathing.
Behind the scenes, contingency planning kicked into overdrive. Lawyers reportedly began drafting 2 parallel strategies, one for reconciliation, one for total estrangement. Everything from royal event attendance to trust fund access was on the table. Insiders say William's team even began quietly revisiting the titles issue for both Meghan and the children. And what about Harry? He was stuck in the middle, exactly where Meghan had feared he'd end up, pulling in 2 directions. Wanted by no one fully, trusted by neither side. But for William, the message was simple: choose now, or lose everything. And what the public didn't know was that William had already drawn his line in the sand. He had informed the king that any path forward with Harry could not include Meghan, period, full stop. Not at royal events, not at family gatherings, not even in strategy discussions. And if the king ignored that warning, William was prepared to go public. But even as the palace war escalated, back in California, a bizarre celebrity story was going viral, one involving Oprah, baby ducks, and a moment so tone-deaf, it nearly broke the internet. Of all the ways for Meghan and Harry to get dragged back into the headlines, this was not on anyone's bingo card. Baby ducks, a frantic phone call, Oprah Winfrey, and a box. But that's exactly what happened when a bizarre, almost cartoonish story spilled out on a podcast, painting the Sussexes not as victims or villains, but as something even worse in Hollywood, out of touch. According to Oprah herself, Harry and Meghan had a duck emergency over Easter weekend. A mother duck had nested in their backyard, hatched her ducklings, and, tragically, or perhaps comedically, realized the Sussexes had no pond. What happened next sounded like something out of a children's book, except no one was laughing. Harry allegedly called Oprah in a panic, asking if he could bring the ducks to her estate so they could swim in her pond. She agreed, but begged for a delay so her grandkids could see the ducklings arrive. Harry refused. "We're coming now," he said, according to Oprah. And what followed was pure chaos. As Oprah told it, Harry pulled up with a box full of ducklings. Meghan jumped out of the car. The mother duck, startled, flew off. And suddenly you had 3 mega celebrities running around the front yard trying to chase down a duck. For half an hour, in a gated Montecito neighborhood, the internet didn't just cringe, it recoiled. Animal lovers were horrified. Wildlife experts warned against separating ducklings from their mother, and royal watchers called it peak privilege, a symbol of how completely detached from reality the Sussexes had become. Social media exploded with memes, mockery, and fury.
And I know how much you must be missing Kate. So awful the way the media has to pit women against each other and make it seem like you hate her, when in reality...
When in reality, I hate her, but yes, I know what you mean. It's terrible.
Well, I should let them know to send a plane for us.
No, we can fly commercial with miles and... have them send a plane.
Hashtag ducking disaster trended for hours, and Meghan, she was reportedly mortified. According to 2 separate sources in her inner circle, she didn't know Oprah was going to share the story publicly. She thought it had stayed between friends. But Oprah, perhaps trying to revamp her own fading celebrity appeal, had decided to go public. On a podcast, no less. With Harry and Meghan as the punchline, the timing could not have been worse. Back in London, William was still raging over the peace talk leak. Camilla was quietly fuming over her birthday being overshadowed. And now, this duck fiasco was giving critics fresh ammo. Late-night hosts mocked it. UK tabloids devoured it. Even some of Meghan's few remaining Hollywood allies reportedly began backing away from public support. To her credit, Meghan's team scrambled into damage control mode. Calls were made, posts were pulled. A planned brand video featuring sustainable outdoor moments was abruptly shelved. And behind closed doors, Meghan allegedly issued a very clear directive: no more Oprah stories. But it was too late. What was meant to be a sweet anecdote had turned into a symbol of the exact thing Harry was trying to escape: tone-deaf privilege, celebrity chaos, and another wave of negative headlines. Meghan wanted the attention off her wine, off her marriage, off her mistakes. Instead, now the world was laughing at Duckgate, and just when it seemed things couldn't spiral any further, the money started drying up. Behind the gates of their Montecito mansion, a quiet crisis was unfolding, not just emotional, not just reputational, but financial. Because while the headlines focused on duck chases and Diana tributes, insiders say Meghan had finally seen the numbers, and they weren't pretty. According to multiple sources close to Archewell, donor interest had begun to shrink months ago. High-value sponsors were backing away. Even some of the philanthropic commitments that once seemed like golden deals, Netflix, Spotify, multi-year grants, were now either finished, frozen, or quietly terminated. The production pipeline had dried up, and the Sussexes' names no longer guaranteed viral engagement. Worse, as ever, the brand Meghan had pinned so much hope on was in trouble. The rosé stunt had drawn attention, yes, but not the kind that translated to loyalty. Industry analysts who spoke to UK press described the launch as confused and off-key. And while Meghan had reportedly envisioned a premium line of lifestyle products echoing Goop or Aveline, what the public saw was something else entirely: a duchess desperately clinging to relevancy through wine bottles and hashtags. Then came the analytics. Sales spikes were short-lived. Repeat buyers were nearly non-existent. Worse still, Meghan's branding team had drastically overestimated international interest. The UK market was essentially a dead zone, with customs restrictions adding insult to injury. Not even the birthday stunt had moved inventory the way she hoped. And here's the dagger. Several luxury retailers who had previously expressed interest in carrying select as-ever products reportedly backed out after watching the duck story go viral. According to one Beverly Hills PR veteran, Meghan's brand is struggling because it lacks consistency. One week it's advocacy, the next it's a jam jar, then wine, then crystals, then nothing. It doesn't feel elevated, it feels lost. Meghan knew the numbers, she had the reports, and she understood what they meant. She needed a pivot, and fast. That's when insiders say she began floating a new idea: a solo docuseries, her version of the truth, a glossy, controlled, highly produced narrative designed to set the record straight. Not just about the palace, not just about the press, but about him, about Harry, about the unraveling. No contracts have been signed, no cameras have started rolling, but multiple sources confirm Meghan's team has been quietly shopping the concept, under the radar, with limited visibility, to streaming platforms and female-led production houses. If greenlit, it would be her boldest move yet, stepping out from the royal shadow, stepping away from the Duchess branding, and reintroducing herself as a woman wronged. But here's the problem: a solo comeback requires a clean break. And for that, there are legal complications, contracts, clauses, custody, brand splits. Which is why, according to whispers in LA law circles, both sides have begun calling in the lawyers. Because if this truly is the end, it won't end quietly. If the emotional cracks were already visible, the legal machinery grinding into gear made it official. This wasn't just a rough patch. This was preparation for war. Quiet war, for now. Behind mahogany doors and away from cameras. But war nonetheless. Sources in Los Angeles legal circles say Meghan has re-engaged a high-powered Beverly Hills attorney, one who specializes in high-profile brand divorces. Not just the typical prenup negotiations or custody wrangling. This is the kind of attorney you hire when image and reputation are part of the asset split. And in this case, reputation might be the only thing left to salvage. According to whispers, Meghan was the first to make the call. She wanted clarification, protection, control. What happens to Archewell if they go their separate ways? What happens to As Ever, which was built partially on her Duchess title but marketed jointly with Harry's influence? What about ownership of the Montecito estate, the streaming contracts, the copyrights, the trademarks? And then, inevitably, what about the children? One source close to the situation said it bluntly: this wasn't a panicked move, it was strategic. She's preparing her side of the chessboard. And then came the post-nup rumors. Apparently, several months ago, long before Harry's trip to Africa, there had been quiet discussions about amending their prenup. Nothing dramatic, just adjustments to reflect their changing income streams and business obligations. But Harry allegedly resisted. He wanted to simplify, not complicate. He wasn't interested in renegotiating trust funds or carving up their foundation. That refusal, in hindsight, now looks like a red flag, because Meghan's legal team is now said to be drafting proposals for an entirely new agreement, one that draws clearer lines, one that reflects a potential separation, whether public or private, whether temporary or permanent. Meanwhile, Harry has reportedly contacted his own legal counsel in London, not divorce specialists yet, but lawyers who handle royal protocol, trust arrangements, and damage control. According to one insider, they're looking at every possibility: financial decoupling, press management, and even title suspension. The goal, they said, is containment. But here's where things get explosive. Meghan allegedly warned Harry, through a series of tense, lawyer-mediated exchanges, that she would not go quietly, that if forced into a corner, she had receipts, emails, texts, voicemails, proof, she claims, of manipulation, double-dealing, and private cruelty within the royal machine. And if Harry took sides, if he threw her under the bus, she'd unleash all of it. Some say it's a bluff, others say she's been building that arsenal for years. But one thing is clear, there's no neutral ground left. The home is tense, the lawyers are circling, the narrative is spiraling, and soon, possibly within days, there will be one final confrontation, because Harry can't stay silent much longer. And Meghan? She's not backing down, but neither of them is ready for what happens next. When the world finds out who walks away first, it always comes down to a choice. And for Harry, that choice is staring him down, like a mirror he can't escape, one that reflects two impossible paths. On one side, the royal bloodline he's been running from. On the other, the woman he once said he'd give up everything to protect. But now, both sides are tired. Both sides are fractured. And Harry? He's the one cracking in the middle. Insiders say he's barely speaking to Meghan. The Montecito home feels like a museum, cold, curated, eerily quiet. His days are filled with long walks, whispered phone calls to old friends, and hours alone in his office. Friends who've reconnected with him in recent weeks describe him as haunted and thin, not physically, emotionally, like someone who suddenly realized he might have lost everything without even knowing it was slipping away. And the royal family? They're not waiting around. Camilla has drawn her line. William has reinforced it with concrete. There will be no welcoming committee if Meghan's name is still attached. That much is settled. But King Charles remains the wild card. Despite everything, the interviews, the titles drama, the lawsuits, the smears, he still sees Harry as his son. The son who once followed behind Diana's casket. The boy who smiled through grief for cameras. The young man who now, maybe too late, wants to come home. But home is not a word you just get to reclaim, especially not when you've torched every bridge leading back to it. What the public doesn't see are the contingency meetings. The late-night calls between Charles and his private secretary. The discussions about security logistics. About whether Harry could take on small ceremonial duties. Without Meghan, without noise. Quiet roles. Healing roles. If, and only if, he's alone. And that's the choice. Because Meghan, she knows the storm is coming. According to multiple sources, she's already begun moving certain personal items into storage. Not out of drama, but preservation, protection. She's still fighting, yes, but something in her understands this fight might not end with her winning. Still, she's not defeated. Not yet. She's plotting, calculating, watching the press, watching the palace, watching Harry, and she knows, if he walks, the brand suffers, the sympathy disappears, the spotlight dims, the deals dry up. She knows that a prince without a crown is still a headline, but a duchess without a prince, that's just noise. So here they are, standing in the wreckage of a modern fairy tale. No tiaras, no kisses on balconies, just silence, lawyers, and a world waiting for the next move. Will Harry walk back into the arms of the crown and leave behind the woman who set his world on fire? Or will he stay and watch everything else around him fall? Drop your thoughts below. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned. The next video on your screen is waiting, and trust me, you won't believe what's coming next.